In this lesson, we're going to learn about what CSS is and how it works. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it controls the look and layout of a website, whereas HTML only is the content of the website, such as the text and the pictures. To give you an example of this, if we go here to the recreation.gov website, you can see the layout of the text and the different icons and just the basic structure and style of the website. If we go and disable the CSS, this is the HTML. Doesn't look very good. It's basically just a block structure of the text and the pictures, whereas the CSS tells everything where to go and how to look. So it makes the site look much, much better. If we look at another example here, you can see this page has completely different looks based on changes to a style sheet. All the content is the exact same, but it's changing based on the rules in the CSS, and this is what it looks like without any style. So there are 4 different types of CSS. There is inline, internal, external, and browser. Let's start at the top here. Inline CSS is what you have already learned. So if we go here, you can see I've got a bit of HTML content on this page. I've got an H1, and I've just got a simple table. So if we go into the H1 and add a style equals quotes, and we put in color red, you can see that when I save that, it turns red. So it's called inline styles because you literally are putting those styles in the line of code. So let's go ahead and remove that and save it. And the next style type is called internal CSS. So you're actually still putting your CSS rules in the page itself, just not in the line. So if I go in here between the head tags and add a couple of style tags and split those apart, I can put any of the CSS rules I want between these two and it will apply to the whole page. So for example, now I put in H1 so I can talk to that H1. That's my selector. Put in some curly brackets and then do the same thing you already know. Color and then red. When I go ahead and save this page, you'll see that it turns red. So that is internal CSS. If I had multiple H1s on this page, they would all turn red because you're telling all H1s to turn red. Now the third type of style, so let's go ahead and take this out, is external CSS. So you're basically using one CSS style sheet, one page, and that way you can control multiple pages. So you could change every single page on a website by changing one simple rule. So here's how you create an external style sheet. So you're going to go File, New, then you're going to save it as style.css. Looks like we've already got one, so I'll go ahead and save it. Opens up, it's blank, and now I do the same thing. I put in my H1 selector to talk to my H1s, curly brackets, and then color red. Now, if I save that, and I go here, you'll notice it hasn't yet done anything, and that's because I haven't linked this HTML page to this style sheet. So all I need to do is put a line of code here in the head. You can always Google it if you forget. You can also look on this page. Here's the link. Another way that you can add it is by going to the brackets skeleton extension here and putting in an external style sheet link. There it is. So it's just a link. It's a style sheet. That's the relationship. And then you put in whatever you named it. And in this case, it's in the same folder. So that's all we have to do is just put the name of it, style.css. And as soon as I save this page, nothing works. So why did it not work? Let's go look. If the same thing happens to you, you just need to pay attention to where you have saved things. If you look in the folder here, I have inside the CSS Introduction folder, that's where I've got my index file. And I'm telling my style sheet to look in that same folder for a style.css. It's not there. I saved it in the wrong location in the CSS layout folder. So I could go here and say .. and then go back a folder and then go into that folder and then go to the right file. In this case, I don't actually want to do that. I just want to move that file. So I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to put it into the right folder. So it's now in the same spot as the index file which closed it here in brackets. So now I just need to reopen it. So go to the right folder, open up my style sheet. And now if I save this file, it should work, and there it is. So just make sure things are in the right place. But now that we've done that, anything I add to this style sheet is going to change here on the index page. And as long as every single page in your site has that same link to that style sheet, it'll change every single page. So the last type of CSS we're going to look at is called browser CSS. This is default CSS. This is nothing that you add. Chrome, Firefox, whatever it is, will add its own different basic default CSS to your pages. That's why sites can look a little bit different in different browsers. Sometimes that can cause problems, however. And for example, let me show you. If we go and put a background color onto this H1, and I save that, you'll notice that it's pushed down from the top of the page and pushed in. And I didn't add any padding or margin, but it still did that. So in order to get rid of that, we could simply reset it. So for example, if we go to the H1, whoops, we're already in the H1, and we put in a margin top of 0, you can see that pulls it up. It's not all the way there yet, but it's getting closer. And then the rest of it, there's still a little bit of extra space on the outside, left edge, right edge, and on the top. That is the body. That's the entire page has some default browser CSS. So if we go add some rules to the body and say margin 0 all the way around, you'll notice it's now flush. So you can get rid of that browser CSS if you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this for now, and we're not going to use the style sheet anymore for the rest of this demonstration. But back here in index, let's continue to look at this. So as for syntax, whatever you want to talk to in your CSS, you're going to add a selector, which is the tag you're talking to. And then you will, in between curly brackets or curly braces, you're going to put your different sets, your different declarations. So your property, which would be your color, and then your value is blue or red or green. Your property would be your font size, and then the value, which is 12 pixels or 20 pixels. So you can put as many as you want between that one set of curly braces. They just need to be separated by those semicolons. So that's how the syntax works. Now, as far as box model goes, every HTML element, for example, here's an element, on a page you can think of as a box. It's all contained inside of a box. To look at that, let's go back and add those style tags. So let's talk to the H1 again. And then we'll give it a background color. Let's change that to blue. And when we go look at it, you can see that it lives basically inside of a box. Even though I gave it a background color, it didn't just go around the text, it went the whole thing. So it lives inside of a box. Now the content, the CSS introduction text is the content. Between the border and the content, there is space. So if you look at this, the border would be the edge where the yellow stops. And then you have the border itself. In fact, let's add a border to this, just so you can see it. 1 pixel, solid black. When we save that, you can see you've got that border on the edge. So the space between the content and the border is called padding. So we can actually increase padding on this as well, just so you can see it. Padding, I'm going to add 10 pixels. And when I save that, you'll notice the space in between the border and the text increases. That's the padding. The space on the outside of the border is called the margin. So if we go in here and add some margin as well, 20 pixels, and I save that, you can see it didn't increase the space inside the yellow, but it increased the space around it. So if we add one more 0, you'll see this really affects it. There's 200 pixels of margin all the way around it now. So that's the box model. And then lastly, we have inheritance. So inheritance is the idea that tags that are enclosed in another set of tags will inherit the attributes of the parent tag. For example, if your parents have blue eyes, you're getting blue eyes, right? So to give this more of an example, right, if I go here to the body, right, and I give it a color, it's going to make the H1 have a color, the paragraph, the list, all these things will turn red because they're all inside the body tag. So body tags, everything in them will turn a color. So let's try that. So if I go up here in my style and I add body and I say color red and I save that, it turns red except for the H1 because we already had a rule for that. So let's just take that out. Save it again. Everything inside of there goes red. Now we can continue to change that to show you how this works. So if we come down here to the table itself, let's look at that. So if we put in style equals quotes and we do color blue and we save that, you can see all the text inside of this table turns blue. If I take that style, inline style, and I paste it on the table row, right? We've got row 1 and row 2. Watch what happens. We save that and only the top, cell 1 and cell 2, turn blue. If we go one step further down and we paste that just inside of cell 1, you can see that only cell 1 turns blue. So that's the idea of inheritance, that tags will inherit properties from their containing tags. So that's an introduction to CSS.